Hi, I am Sara De Masi. I am from University of Florence and today I'm going to present a paper entitled Are Women Drivers of Sustainability? The Moderating Effect of Women on Boards in the Relationship between ESG Performance and Firms' Financial Stability. This paper is about ESG and boards. And today, ESG is an important metric for sustainable business. And implementing ESG issues into corporate strategy is a business imperative for most of the companies. Recent literature focuses on whether and how ESG can create long-term value for investors and companies. And this literature suggests that ESG issues mitigate firm long risks, and firms that integrate ESG factor into corporate strategy face lower risks. But the decision on the risk profile of the company and the decision about how to integrate ESG into corporate strategy is typically taken by the board of directors. And there is a big stream of research that focuses on how boards may influence ESG. And specifically, women directors are seen as these directors that are more sensitive to environmental issues. And this typically is due to several reasons. First, literature shows that women are more likely to have a longer term perspective and a stockholder orientation. This is partially due not only because of the social role that women have in most of the society, but also is that in the developed countries, women directors are more likely to have a non-business background, a background that is more related to ESG, to corporate social responsibility, to environmental issue, to human social issue, human resources. So because of that, women are more likely to push the boards towards environmental issue. So we try to move forward the discussion about board ESG and risks because we believed that this picture is much more complicated than a single linear relationship between board composition and ESG. We think that women may be a moderating effect on the relationship between ESG and firm risks. So this is mainly our research question. Are women on boards an important driver for the relationship between ESG and firm risk? So we wanted to investigate if women can moderate this relationship between ESG and risk management. Not only women, but the critical mass of women. So we build on the critical mass theory that argues that having women on the board, it's not enough to push the boards towards more sustainable investments or more sustainable strategy. Because it's possible that when women are just a minority, the other member of the boards tend to isolate or to don't take into account the opinion, the value, the perspective that women are more likely to bring to the board. So this theory say that women are more likely to influence the board when they reach a minimum number that is called the critical mass, that is three women. So to answer to this research question, we developed two hypotheses. The first hypothesis tests the direct link between ESG and firm creditworthiness, the firm stability. This is based on the idea that companies that implement ESG into corporate strategy are more likely to create long-term value for investors, and are more likely to face lower risks. So they are more likely to have a higher firm creditworthiness, a higher firm stability. So the first hypothesis tests this direct link and suggests just a positive relationship between ESG and firm creditworthiness. But the main of our goal is to understand the moderation effect of women and how women can be the role of the women that can have in this relationship. So we believe that women can interact, can have a big role in this picture, because the critical mass of women, the boards that have at least 3 women they have at least 3 women, are more likely to have this relationship more amplified. So it means that the moderation effect of women on the relationship between ESG and firm creditworthiness is positive. So in other words, we hypothesize that in boards that have at least 3 women or more, boards it's more likely to use the ESG orientation that is typically brought by the women, and that in consequences can influence the firm creditworthinesses. So to test our hypothesis, we used a data set of the largest listed companies for 9 European countries that have introduced the gender quota law. The gender quota law is a law that mandates boards to have a certain number of women on their board. And this law gives us a quasi-natural experiment, because it gives us a perfect setting to test our hypothesis and to compare companies' boards that have at least 3 women or more with boards that they don't reach a critical mass. So our final sample is 235 companies over the year 2004 and 2020. We used we collect variables from Thomson and Reuters data stream. This is our model. Our dependent variable is the z-score, and this is calculated as in the seminal paper of Altman in 1977. So z-score is the typically measure to proxy the stability of the firm. Has the independent variable, we have ESG scores that are downloaded directly from Thomson and Reuters, and that test the ESG performance of the company. And then we have this variable that is called CM, that is a dummy variable that takes the value 1 if the board has at least 3 women and 0 otherwise. But in order to test the moderation effect of the critical mass of women and ESG, we use these interaction terms between ESG and CM. And then we control for a bunch of variables that control for firm characteristics and board characteristics. These are our results. So as you can see, the first hypothesis is supported because the ESG has a positive influence on this score. So it means that companies that have a high ESG are more likely to be more financially stable. The interaction term is positive and statistically significant, both for the ESG score, and then we tested it also in the single pillar of ESG score, so for the environmental pillar, for the social pillar, and from the governance pillar. And in all the cases, the interaction terms is positive and statistically significant, saying that women, boards that have at least 3 women, are more likely to have a higher are more likely to have a higher ESG and firm credit worthiness. So, in other words, the women, the critical mass of women amplified the positive influence, the positive effect of women on ESG, and amplified the effect of women towards ESG, and on consequences also have a positive influence on firm stability. So our conclusions say that firms with a higher ESG score have also better credit worthiness and financial stability, and boards that reach a critical mass of women contribute to increasing this score. So the women is seen as a channel through which we can increase ESG score and consequently also improve the firm stability and the firm credit worthinesses. I hope that you enjoyed my presentation. Thank you.